Today we are going to uh, page through and deep dive into a release that I've just received that I'm surprised hasn't had a lot of attention. This is a release from Italy detailing Revelations, the rapture, the book of the Bible using Dungeons and Dragons 5th edition. And we'll get into why I was unable to, more personal things as why I was unable to have a show Friday and yesterday, but it made me rethink life in general. And I said, well, you know what? I'm always enthused to get into things that when life throws us lemons, you make lemonade. And I like being fueled by things that happen in life, and I hope all of you are able to take part in it. A little bit serious note, but we're not going to get too serious with this. We're going to take it something that has potential for a lots of controversy, and I don't stay away from that, so let's get into it. Yeah, it's a little I'm surprised something like this hasn't gotten the attention that it has, because it could be so controversial. So let's get into controversy, but first, intro. So hello creatives, community, and kind folks. Welcome to RPG with DBJ. I apologize for the regulars that come to this channel and really give me the energy, enthusiasm to do this each time. Unfortunately, two things happened over the weekend, and I don't have any numbers, but anecdotally, a family member was on the ill side, out of town, and it was suggested to leave out of town to enjoy some time with this elderly family member. So wife says, we gotta go, and I'm like, yeah, we gotta go. And at the same time, unfortunately, although predicted, we have two cats. They were sisters, and one of them we had to say goodbye, send her home. So both those things happened over the weekend into yesterday, and I don't have any anecdotal evidence of this, but it seems like when someone is either close to passing, a human being in family, and a pet, they sometimes the emotional pull gets fuzzy and muddled together, and so something like that happened. So yeah. I don't know about that. So there's a supplement here called APOCALISSE, and APOCALISSE is the end of days. And listen, we all know or have heard tangentially about the rapture and Revelations, and for those who are not familiar, the descriptions of the last book of the Bible are some of the most nightmare-fueled descriptions you'd ever see. Now, there are many people who feel that religiously, that everything in the Bible is fact, including the book of Revelations. But there are many creators, writers, artists, painters, graphic artists, and things like that have tried to describe and show in a visual manner what that would look like, based on the words and descriptions therein. And when you're very far removed from such a thing, it can feel like you're walking along on eggshells, because you don't really want to offend anyone. But I thought, yeah, just see, and there we go, right? I have zero knowledge of nor do I profess to be a historian of any type. But I thought it was very interesting to acquire a tabletop role-playing element from Italy, the heart of, individuals that live in the heart of the Vatican and Catholicism and such, to create a not one, but actually 3 supplements. They all link together as as the Apocalypse, and I was like, hey, this would be kind of cool. Don't know if anybody would even want to see this, but then I did some searching, and I was like, no one's even left any like comments, like good or bad. I was like, well, wait a minute. Oh, okay. Yeah, I was going to say, yeah, it's not necessarily American. Yeah. So we are going to, I'm going to show you some imagery and things like that. And I thought this would just be very cool to just talk about. Show this to you guys in the background, and it is interesting. I normally don't go over very many Dungeons and Dragons products, but we know that the 2014 rules are in the Creative Commons. It doesn't belong to a corporation any longer. These rules don't belong to them. And as we see from many communities around the world, hey, I like those individuals are going, hey, I like tabletop role playing, and this is the most popular rule set out there, and I can be creative on my own and make something that's either culturally significant or historically significant. So why not combine them together? So this book is called, there are 3 books: the Book of Revelation, John's Guide to Armageddon, and there's a monster guide, Monsters of the Armageddon. And we're going to take a look at all of them, including especially some of the horrific imagery of like the angels and things like that. It's pretty cool. But this, the Book of Revelation, is an art book, and the art book is written in Italian, Latin, and English, and it goes through, and they basically reprinted the Book of Revelations, attached to it with artwork and some of the descriptions. Like, for example, there is this spiral symbol here above the words that say Book of Revelation, and that is the symbol of 666. It's basically the 3 6s in a spiral put together, and you'll see that some of that symbology in this game. Also in this setting, as it details the end times, it talks about the 7 seals and angels and devils and Satan and all that, and it takes place in pseudo Italy after the 7th seal has broken, and there's the last bastion of humanity left in the city known as Babylonia, and that is where this game takes place. And it does go from have suggestions to take it from 1st level all the way up to 20th level. These are setting guides. So here in this one page, I'm pretty sure the first column is Latin, second column Italian, and this third column is English. But again, this book, the Book of Revelation, this one is an art book, and it details some of the art. You'll see some of the art reprinted in some of the other imagery, but it's pretty interesting. And like I said, if you are hyper specific when it comes to the real history or the real faith, this might be offensive to some people, while there may be others who say, you know what, if this game or this setting is one in which that would draw more people into maybe their faith or something like that, that's also interesting. As well as the fact that for those, whether you're a believer or not, to role play in this setting, and mind you, you can role play as a playing in the faction on the side of evil, satanists, devils, demons, and things like that. You can actually portray people on that side, which, you know, if you're religious, you may not want to even encourage that. But yes, and of course, in true Dungeons and Dragons 5th edition style, there are plenty of character options, new magic, backgrounds, and all that kind of stuff. There are some of these 2-page spreads, and it's difficult to see this, but down at the bottom right-ish of this image are, I'm presuming, human-sized individuals, as well as these pointy-topped throngs around the edges. And then, of course, we have here, I believe that this character NPC's name is Metatron, but yeah, it goes through other stuff here. Very interesting. I'll get to another splash page of artwork, and then I'll see what you guys have to say about this. Like I said, I'm an individual who I don't make up my mind very easily about a thing. I would love to run this setting, but of course, you know, there are some actuallys, and you know, it'd be difficult to like get into that kind of stuff. Yeah. Yeah. Talking about the rapture. Yeah. Well, and also there's also the idea that that I think of when we as human beings, as in a modern age, like to think of ourselves as being the special ones, those that are blessed, those that will be risen above all others because of our special chosen nature or birth or something like that. This setting doesn't deal with the rapture, it deals with revelation, which means that for the most part, you are not going to be the special person. It's horrible, painful. It's actually very, very brutal the way it's described, both game mechanics and setting wise. And but in a modern context, we human beings like to think of ourselves as the special people. Everyone else is they and them. Everyone else has been othered, and in this setting, it goes out of its way to basically tell you, like, no, that's not the case. For example, here's a big bit of art that may. I'm going to go to another book in a minute. Here's a bit of art that may drive people a little bit insane. This individual is known as the Lion and the Lamb. They do not tell you the real name of this individual, but let's just say that this individual was born mortal, gave of himself to absolve the sins of humanity, and then was brought into the fold because of his divine birth. Let's just put it that way. Who has now returned and is one of, I believe, 2 or 3 leaders leading the hosts, the faction known as the Thrones or Thronians, against the demonic hordes and such. So you decide for yourself who you think this individual is. And they're statted out as well. And you know the rule: if you stat it, you can kill it, kind of thing. So it's pretty brutal. If you're familiar with 5th edition Dungeons and Dragons, there's a lot of these main character individuals that are like CR level 20 to 30, mostly hovering in the 25 to 30 range. As far as play, and there are some live plays out there, but not a lot. But yeah, it's pretty brutal. So, all right, let's introduce you to another book. Oh, wait a minute. We're only halfway through here. Dogs of War. There's classic angels and cherubims. Then there's a bunch of other stuff. All right, let's go to monsters of the Armageddon. And this is your classic monster manual. The monsters of the Armageddon. That definitely looks like the Four Horsemen. It talks about the idea of the Four Horsemen and their descriptions and such, and it's pretty interesting. Now here's a table of contents. Talks about the Lord's hosts. It begins with the Lord's hosts, then the adversary's horde, the scores of conquest. So in this world, this setting, the conquest, war, famine, and death are physical beings that have dominated the landscape, and the players, you as player characters, can physically navigate this transformed world where the sun is just a black disk in the sky, the stars have fallen from the sky, and so on and so forth. And they've tried to physically represent the very elements of what Revelation says, again, in the setting. So talks about monsters and new options for monsters. So, for example, there's a size category that's larger than gigantic called Titanic. There are also new monster tags. The monster tag thing is not really a big deal. It just basically says like, oh, not only is it a beast or an undead, it may also be associated with the abyssal side or the Thronian side of the conflicts. And then it basically talks about alignment, which really alignment doesn't really matter. I mean, there's basically three sides. there's the so-called sides from above, sides from the abyss, and then you in the middle. So, and there's a category, not a category. There's a what's the way to describe this? I will just tell you what it is. It's called apotheosis. And apotheosis is a new trait, and apotheosis can be triggered with some of these monsters, which will take on a more horrible, better, a new transformation. Essentially, think of it like a video game. You're fighting the big boss, and then you get ready to bring the big boss down, and then they go through apotheosis and then become even more lethal and such. So, but let's get into some of these some of the artwork here as we talk about these. This is Metatron, and Metatron is like the physical representation of the word of God in this setting. And Metatron, this is a Metatron. Metatron's literal voice is nothing but pure light. And Metatron is a titanic angelic figure, and goes into detail about Metatron and Metatron's lair and the regional effects. But let's get into the stat block here. A 2-pager, of course, with only 525 hit points, which is, I think, is rather low. Is a challenge rating 30 being, and then it talks about all of Metatron's capabilities and things. Voice of the Lord, light of the Lord, flaming sword, sword tongue, divine word, divine presence, and all these kind of things. I'm not really a mechanics person, so yeah. Essentially, like this is just weird for me to say, but part of it just bothers me a little bit, the stat out beings that are really supposed to not be defeatable. But to each their own. That's just me. Like I said, I received this. I've had it on digital in the background. I received the physical book. I backed it, Kickstarter, and after I received the book, I was like, I forgot I even backed this thing. And it got me, real life events got me thinking about life and passing on in general. That's how I'll share that with you guys. Let me see what my chat always disappears. Yeah, Metatron is not just in that setting. That is an actual theological thought that is centuries old. No, I didn't mean to see. And that here we come with the bumping up against reality versus a fictionalized Dungeons and Dragons setting, right? from here on, understand that I will be referring it to fictionalizations and Dungeons and Dragons and mythology because of this particular game setting. Not because I think that the religion is fake, but that these individuals created it based off of that information. So there's going to be a every time you go one removed from a thing. This setting isn't the Bible with artwork. It actually has mechanics to it. So therefore, someone has to translate that, and translating is a thing. Here we go. Yeah, Drew says, yeah, again, the rapture or the apocalypse, those things are not the same thing. I mean, there have been lots of people who live in near-end expectations, but only Americans tie that to the rapture. Yep, I agree with that. The rapture is the idea that people will be taken up into heaven. But again, that is not in the Bible, since the book of Revelation is about what happens here on earth. And this setting is all that happens on earth. It has, if there is a rapture of sorts, your player characters are not members of that group. You are on earth and hoping to survive the last days. And it's all about those last days. So, yeah. I don't know. Oh, Andrew's idea, his premise was it took place right after rapture. Believers had their souls ripped from their bodies, leaving empty shells behind. Those created a zombie apocalypse scenario. Oh, that actually is in this particular game, and it does go into that. I'm going to page through a couple more of these monsters. We'll get through these are the hosts. If I'm not mistaken, and I very well could be wrong, this monster / NPC, adversary, ally, or whoever is the embodiment of what some would call Jesus. Never mentioned. But let's see if I can. The Lion and the Lamb. King of the world. The one who. Let's see if I'll do this. The one who died as a sacrificial lamb has returned at the end times as the Lord's lion. This otherworldly entity is the son of the Creator, the spiritual king of the throne, and the Messiah of penitence and of the redeemed dead. It is said that he sacrificed himself for the love of humanity, but his legend has been told from many perspectives. His heroic figure is unanimously described as a divine entity that challenges corruption, works miracles, and offers lessons in wisdom and compassion. He embodies the values of altruism, redemption, and universal love. On the holy mount, the Lamb and the Lion is both guide and teacher. He awaits the penitent and grants them the blessing of the mark to join the throne in the fight against the abyss. Any wound is healed, and any illness cured in his presence. His voice is kind and deep, though his appearance may be intimidating. And then, and that's just one of the different descriptors. And yes, this person is detailed. Carries seems to be wearing a cloak of lion with many eyes attached. It's a challenge rating 29 humanoid. Human as neutral good. And has abilities like prophetic sermon, bite of the lion, roar of the lion, revenge of the lamb, fury of the lion, divine touch, cloak of the lion. Let's see, what's that cloak? That very unique cloak. Oops, there we go. The Lamb and the Lion wears a cloak covered with thick fur, many eyes, and a lion's head. While he wears the cloak, he has true sight in a 120-foot radius, can see in all directions, can't be surprised, has advantage on wisdom perception checks that rely on sight and smell, and gains resistance to bludgeoning, piercing, and slashing from non-magical attacks already included in the description. It's really weird to have to stat these things out, but whatever. Okay, you got to go with it. Of course, all of these are the main benefactors, allies, soldiers, generals in the war. Archangel of the Seraphim. I'm gonna. Is either Taxiarch or Tashiarch. Mikhail. I'm sure it's Michael, but I'm trying to pronounce it the way it's written. Lawful good celestial. Raphael, the Archangel of Malachim. I don't know if I know I'm butchering pronunciations here, and these individuals are statted out. Gabriel, Archangel of the Cherubim, messenger to the mortals. Raziel, Archangel of the Ophanim and Elohim. These individuals, when it describes what their purpose is, are the ones that may be giving instructions to the player characters to send them on missions that they themselves are distracted from because of the Cold War that's building in the last days. And then there's, I want to say, smaller characters, elders, things like that, like this challenge rating 5 elder. And then there's other monsters and things like that, like a mighty angel here, seraph, a cherub. Malik. But I think Censor Angel. But I think you guys want to see, if you're me, you want to see the more Lovecraftian angels. And here we're going to show you some of those, described as Eloah, gargantuan celestial, generally lawful good. A blazing sphere appeared in the sky like the sun of the old world. As it neared, it grew to the point that it seemed ready to swallow the heavenly vaults. The impious bore witness to an entity made only of eyes and burning feathers. It glided above them, a great central eye between 6 wings from which smaller eyes looked on. It was so bright it cast no shadow. The sinners could behold such a terrible spectacle for mere instances while their bodies were consumed to dust. And nothing but wings and eyes. And an Ophan or Ophaim with 12 gazes. I think if you guys have had any interest in this, you've seen 3D renderings of the Ophan. These divine beings are among the most enigmatic figures of the entire angelic hierarchy. Their shape transcends human imagination. Gargantuan metal wheels entwined within each other, defying the laws of physics. Each wheel is studded with eyes that rove and watch without pause. A giant lidless eye is suspended at the wheel's center amid metallic vapors. The wheels are in constant and rapid movement, cutting through the air with a rhythmic buzz. There is no escaping the Ophanim, not before one of the eyes lights up and emits a blast of divine energy. And it has 12 gazes, and of course, you're gonna, if you've got 12 gazes and 12 eyes, or there's a reference to it, of course there's going to be 12 different abilities of those eyes having focused on you. We want to get, is this the angelic, and is this the gaming version of an angelic version of a beholder? I would say yes. And it's tough as hell. It's challenge rating 10, and it's got like a fiery gaze, blinding gaze, stunning gaze, force, charm, thundering, disheartening, lightning, cursed, gotta say accursed, divine, ensnaring gaze, so on and so forth. So these are the angelic beings. Here's another one that's very strange. Tetramorph. But I'm going to, let me get the artwork up, sorry, center it just a little bit more, and then read what you guys have to say. Are these like mega Modrons? I agree. Yeah, I would say that. Yeah. Yeah. The rapture. So your question is correct. Yeah, the rapture. They don't. Okay. Yes. Causing a zombie apocalypse from the bodies of the devout still remaining on Earth. Yes, that is true. The image looks like a little like Hercules, which I think is very fitting since Jesus seems to be a similar demigod figure. I agree. I like the imagery. I can see some people going like, why would a Jesus figure be like roided out with like a weapon and stuff? But remember, this is after his mortal experiences, if that makes sense. The worst attack, of course, the male gaze. Boom, boom, slow clap. So, I love you here, Drew. I do. Behold the angelic clockwork mega modron beholder. Well, you guys haven't even heard me say read the description of this one. Although I could bring this. Can I make this? Let's see. Let's single page this and get this imagery as big as possible. Come on. Keep going down. So let me read the description and I'm going to show you the image. A frightening and austere creature hovers above the holy mount. It is an angel with 6 wings and 4 heads, with no torso, arms, or legs. It boasts a human head, a lion's, a calf's, and a 4th one resembling an eagle. A divine chimera who transcends the laws of nature, binding other living creatures. The tetramorph is menacing. It is tasked with patrolling the throne's borders and destroying anyone who dares to trespass upon them. And here is the imagery. No arms, no legs, no torso, just 6 wings and 4 faces. Wild. All right, let's get into let's get to some evil. We got to get to the demonic hosts here. Yeah, we got to do that. So we've got our angelic beings. Ariel, a winged lion with a halo, and just your average angelic eagle. Now we have the adversary's host. Who or what is the adversary? I do like the fact that this is just for, meta version. This is just for some layout pieces. When game designers try to find art, many times you can get lots of art that is in the public domain. What I like about this game is they did pull art from the public domain, but there's a lot of artwork out there in the public domain that is extremely religious and theological, and they use these like a lot of the black and white ink etchings and things like that. It's very thematic, and it absolutely positively fits. If I'm not mistaken, I think this is the flood, but it's scattered throughout these books. Again, this is Satanus, 7-headed dragon, and you know the name Satanus tells you who or what Satanus is, and talks about his apotheosis and lair actions and how evil Satanus is. Titanic, abyssal dragon, chaotic evil. But it's challenge level 30, has 907 hit points and a whole bunch of we'd have to do a whole week of this if somebody would like some of these stats read out, because it would take too long to go through it. We have the Dark Prophet. Is this the Antichrist? I don't know. Yeah, yes, air quotes, yes. The myth of the Antichrist talks about that. The voice of seduction and the Dark Prophet who and what it is, challenge rating 28, medium humanoid, chaotic evil. Alastor. Now, is this Lucifer, or is this like, the fallen angel Morningstar? Again, are they explicit in this setting? Sometimes not, And mind you, this is a real setting. When I say real setting, it is a gaming setting. So I think what they really tried to do is engender, because it is from Italian game makers. If you're around the world, your names for many of these individuals might be different, and because your character is living in this world, we human beings after the fact have names for them, but in this world they may have their own names and slang and rumors and things like that. So they may not have the same nomenclature, but they are the same individuals, if that makes sense. Anyway, that's how I rationalize it. Others may go like, "Why did they just name it from the Bible?" And you could say, "Well, what's the name?" Like here's Asmodeus or Asmodeus, depends on your pronunciation. The tyrant demon's body is gigantic, flaccid, and swollen. Besides the central head of an ogre with great goat-like horns, he has 2 secondary heads, a lion's head on his left shoulder and a flayed ram's head on the right. Instead of feet, he stands on 6 great rooster legs and boasts a mighty reptilian tail. He is adorned with many golden ornaments, refined and delicate, which contrast with his horrendous aspect and his unhealthy, bluish skin hue. An intense reek of sulfur wafts from his bulk. This does not look like the Dungeons & Dragons Asmodeus or Asmodeus, but this may be from the descriptions. King Solomon's adversary, king of the abyssal city. And it is a challenge rating 19, huge fiend, abyssal, chaotic evil. And there's an archdemon, demon of temptation, a wormwood demon, goat demon. Gotta have some of those. But let's see if we can find some of these. Beast from the Sea. This one, because I know there's the part where great beasts are supposed to come out of the oceans. Idol of the Beast. Impure spirits, of course. All those evil people and their spirits flying around. And then I'm going to go to John's Guide to the Armageddon and talk about the 7 seals and such. The Abyssal Locust. I don't know about you guys. I've heard this description of the Abyssal Locust as being reminiscent of what a person of that time period would describe a helicopter. But I'm going to read the description out here. Let's see if I can center it. Okay. The Abyssal Locust. You know what? Never mind. The Abyssal Locusts recall monstrous and insane parodies of winged horses. Their bodies are entirely encased in iron armor, akin to an insect's tough exoskeleton. Their wings recall those of a locust. They have long, scorpion tails with which they can strike and poison foes. The face is quasi-human, as that of a manticore might be. Almost human, but modeled by someone who has never seen a human before. An imposing and filthy mane, almost like the hair of a hag, snakes from the broad forehead to the equine back. A decorated diadem, crown-like, frames the locust head, making it even more grotesque. And here is the image of it. Abaddon's army, part of the horde. And there's the imagery. The design studio that did the art for this, I believe, is called Two Blind Mice, and they did the artwork for this game. The art layout and direction. Abyssal Mastiff, like a hellhound. And then there's the scores of the conquest. And so the classic four horsemen are physical beings in this world. This is conquest here. And statted out, and it talks about if you travel to their lands where famine, death, conquest, war are located, what you would encounter. Celestial butchers and conquering centaur. Yeah, everyone preparing for the great war at the end. Infernal lion. There's a vandal boar. Guess you got to eat something. Legions of war elephants stuff. Look at that. I like these old etchings. You can see that they like, let's pick one and turn them golden. Like, I don't know if that's going to help you as a player character, but whatever. There's war. Challenge rating 22. Rides upon the red nightmare, which is this basically a nightmare horse monarch. Gotta have the monarchs around there, champions, fighting on the side of war, or one of the four horsemen is war. Legionnaires, of course, gonna fight some of them. Infernal panther. Nasty stuff. Look at this etching. That's nasty. Oof. Ooh. Martial elephant. In the ranks of famine. It goes on and on. Pretty cool. Let's go to John's guide. And there's the cover of the book. John's Guide to the Armageddon. And yes, much of the artwork has been repeated. I'm sure it was very expensive to get it done. The first chapter of John's Guide to the Armageddon. This is we've got the monster book. We have the Book of Revelation, and then now the John's Guide is the setting book. It gives you the details, the player options, the Game Master's Dungeon Master's Guide in terms of guiding you in how to come to the last days. What's the world like? What's the physical locations like? Meaning, when I say physical locations, like mountains and plains and things like that. Like, what does it look like? What game effects does it have? And so John's Guide to the Armageddon is the third book, or one of the three books, and it talks about that. And so in this introduction, it gives you an introduction to Apocalypse. What is it? Playing the apocalypse. What events happen? Basically, countdown clocks. How do you run the countdown to the end times? And how do you extend play out, or how do you shorten it? And then it talks about the end times. And here we describe the first seal up here, the second seal, each of these paragraphs, third seal, the fourth seal was opened, so on and so forth, and then the seventh seal. And tells about the four horsemen being released and what happens to the world. And you were talking about the undead. Here it is. The fifth seal and the resurrection of the flesh. And that's when the dead come back to life. And when you read through this, it does mix excerpts from the Book of Revelation, and then it goes to mix it with some of the gaming mechanics, which is kind of cool. A little disturbing, but kind of cool. I like it. The sixth seal and the day of the cataclysm, and then of course the seventh seal and silence, the seven trumpets, world of corpses, and the Armageddon, and then adventuring in the end times. I'm going to go back to what you guys have to say because my chat disappears. Amon Ishtar says, "Dead roam the world." Yes. Or how? Maybe our description of the dead is a little bit different. Yeah. Sorry, I'm going back into your comments here. Good morning, everyone. Glad you could find it. Yeah, 6 wings. How the heck does it fly? Yeah, that monster is wild. Wild. Lucifer is the bearer of light, the highest angel, the one that brought light to the universe, and then he was jealous and started a rebellion. It's in here. It's in here. I believe Lucifer is actually called Albaton. Whatever. Yeah. Is there anything named Asmodeus in real Christian lore, or Asmodeus, or was that made up by Gygax and standing for Lucifer during the Satanic Panic? I don't know. But I have to admit, like, and this is very American stateside kind of thing, that we've mixed different terminology, and because of tabletop role-playing games, we've actually separated a lot of those things. So Lucifer Morningstar and Asmodeus and Satan and all of these different names, Azazel and whatever, Demogorgon and all these kind of names. Some of them are the same, but we've just separated them, and others are separate. And so, yeah, is this the true part of it? No. Very few people know the truth, because you would have to uncover the history of language and culture. So, but I like it. CR22. So these are all I draw my sword and attack cannon fodder jobbers, right? Unfortunately, yeah. Is a nightmare a fallen version of a Pegasus? I hadn't thought about that. Maybe Pegasus or a unicorn. Yeah. Fallen version of a unicorn. I would say unicorn. I'm falling towards that. I don't think it's ever been described that way, but I think it makes sense. Yeah. Disturbing is a good starting point when horror is concerned. Apocalypse usually starts with problems piling up one by one. Yep. Seventh son of a seventh son. I was thinking about that one, the seventh seal. Yeah. Suppose like there's what is it? Folklorish, like I know there was a movie about it, but there's something like the seventh son of a seventh son is supposed to be gifted with great power, or something like that. As Asmodeus or Asmodeus is the king of the demons in Jewish legend. Okay. There's the mother-in-law. Yeah, I don't think it was from Gygax. Yeah, Asmodeus is not from Gygax. I think it's a late medieval invention. Yeah, and a lot of that was I hate to call people's religions propaganda, but we know that as religions have spread through the ages, that to get converts, you have to promote it in many ways. And so some of the descriptions and things that have lasted throughout time, some of that was created by individuals trying to sell their religion to the people. And so there is a bit of like overselling in terms of religious physical portrayals of many of these beings. And so, like, I had always heard the descriptions of what we would consider hell has changed over time because of trying to change it, that hell wasn't originally flaming pits, but to describe it to people, they were like, oh yeah, all that trash and debris and waste, human waste that we burn over there, yeah, that's what hell is like. And then we started to say, oh well, I guess hell is pit fire, as if I'm not mistaken, I think it was originally like, the hell is of your own making, it is of your own past transgressions come to visit you. So each person's hell was supposed to be specific, and then it transformed into, oh, it's just pit fire and sulfur, things like that. And it talks about creating a character. Here's what the sun looks like. Yes, it is literally a dark sun. There are the lost ones. Talks about Dante's Inferno as well. Players play the last ones. The last ones are mortals who are still alive on the plane of Armageddon, individuals who, despite the overturning of landmasses and the arrival of otherworldly entities, fight every day for their own life. So the world has been transformed. There's another image of the black sun. Goes into humanity in the apocalypse, like what kind of traits there are. It really suggests they're like, can you play classic Dungeons and Dragons here? They say, yeah, you could play like a Dragonborn if you want to, but they suggest that you don't do this, to make this extremely humanocentric. And if you really want to delve into it, that elves and dwarves and things like that don't exist or aren't part of this setting. But clearly it's within the same game system, so you could play those, but they suggest that you don't do that. And it talks a little bit about alignment, because instead of alignment, they basically have factions, and you choose one or the other. As a player character, you have a sin and virtue, and because these are your sins and virtues writ large, when you pick a sin and a virtue, because you're caught in the middle, and whatever your sin or virtue is, it gives you a capability, but it also means that you're riding the line, if that makes sense, right? And you could be on one side or the other, but that means that you don't have either a sin or a virtue, and if you give it up, you just don't have that ability. The game basically suggests, the setting says that things are unfair in many ways. So for example, let's pick the virtue of faith. So here, if you pick your virtue as faith, it says this virtue symbolizes your utter and unyielding dedication to your cause, the unshakable rigor which allows you to endure without flinching the slings and arrows of fate, the figments of your mind, and the shadows and charms cast by unearthly foes, and even your own martyrdom. You always speak with your head held high, and you always stand fast, convinced that no harm can befall you when you act on your beliefs. You have advantage on saving throws against spells. You also gain resistance to fire damage. All right, but let's say you have the sin of pride, and so you pick this for your character. It goes into its little description. This sin symbolizes the ultimate arrogance and the aloofness, the very sin that tainted Lucifer, or Lucifero, at the dawn of times. You hate fleeing from a fight, yielding to someone else, taking orders, or even accepting suggestions or instructions without being treated with utmost deference. Your ego is so huge that to subjugate or enslave you is nearly impossible. You have advantage with saving throws to resist or end the charmed condition on yourself, and on saving throws against enchantment spells. So yeah, you get a bonus for it, but maybe you're like, I don't want to sin for my character. Well, you don't get that benefit. It's unfair. I mean, if you make that choice, it's unfair to yourself. But I think that's actually kind of cool, because it may mean that, like, you might have to give that up to fall on the throne side, the side of the hosts. Whereas on the demonic side, the abyssal side, they're like, your virtue, you must crush it. These are character options. So when you play a human being, you can come from different origins. So instead of different races, you can play a different human being. There's a child of the apocalypse. There's risen from hell. There's risen from heaven, which is weird. I'm surprised they didn't say fallen from heaven. But anyway, you can play someone risen from heaven, risen from purgatory, and there's risen from limbo. And you are a human being, but they're created just like the old racial features. It's the same thing. Then there's marks. Marks are like, you are marked by your association with one side, the other, or you're in between. And those marks are divine in nature. And the marks represent dice. You get extra dice. The benefit to rolling your mark dice is that you get more dice to roll, which adds to your successes to do a thing. The problem with rolling the dice is, if you fail in rolling the dice, you suffer a fatal retribution, and that retribution is a punishment for you. The idea is that if the dice are not in your favor, it means you are either acting not in conjunction with the faction you are aligned with, or that it is punishing you. This is weird to say. It is punishing you to teach you to greater align with the faction you are aligned with. Basically, it's like if you were in track and someone's like screaming at you in the back, like faster, 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 or something like that. It's the same thing, and it's basically you can have a mark of the Lord. This knight here has a mark of the Lord on his forehead. It gives you extra dice, and then there's also a retribution by failing those. And there's tables for that, of course. Fatal retributions. And the retribution table, you roll a small die. So as your dice grow larger, step dice or chain dice, D4, D6, D8, and it goes up. That's the die you would roll on a fatal retribution. So the more aligned you are with your cause, the greater retribution it is when you fail to do things for your cause. And then it gives you different missions and assignments. You may be given rank, things like that. And there's the mark of the beast, and the same thing. The mark. The dice are the same, and yes, you can play characters that are mixed with each other based on which side of the battle you want to choose, because the battle the sides are sizing up each other. They are gathering together before the Great War, and it talks about the game very much suggests like, hey, could you switch sides? Are you a mortal that's being, drawn to one side or the other? Are you have you risen from hell and you're scrambling your way to get back into the heavenly hosts or something like that? And so the answer to all that is yes. The Mark of Enoch and the fatal retributions and the missions that you can go on. Why you would even have a mark like that? And then there's apocalyptic archetypes. It's like I said, this game is pretty interesting for me. Yeah. Limbo or Purgatory. Could be funny to call the character Dante or Virgil. Yeah, I was thinking that. I was thinking like, could you run a Dante's Inferno game? Like you're crawling out of hell to take place. Yep. Yeah, Hades was not cold. Islamic hell is cold. I believe the Greeks thought it cold. Yeah. I wish, man, I gotta figure out a way to get this overlay, but it's. Amon says, I found the concept interesting for a story of mine that old demons were born out of fears, and we emote free forms because not much that went into their physical form yet. I think all of that is welcome in this setting, right? Like I truly do think that this would be greater to have like people's fears, their angers, their evil intentions made manifest as spirits or voices, and then taking physical form and things like that. Like, could you just throw classic Dungeons and Dragons, right? Are there trolls in this game? Sure. Are the trolls the living, I don't know, the living corruption that are from other human beings or something like that? I would say that, yeah. Could be a scary combination, faith and the sin. Yeah. That's exactly what it is. It's called virtue and sin. And player characters get one from each side, and you may have to give it up, which is, and it does represent that in game wise, because if you give up one, you're giving up some of that power, which is drawing you to give it to your player character. And are you willing to give that up? I like that idea. I mean, it actually fits in pretty well if that's what they're trying to go for. Is there faith that makes any sense? I didn't see that. Drew says Islam is a broad religion. There are many different directions, like in Christianity. Yeah. Yep. This game does not make mention of. This is very Christian centered, including. Let's see if I can find the map here. Including, I believe there. Let's see if I can see archetypes, Armageddon. Let's go to the Armageddon chapter. I believe it is. This talks about the physical location, and if I'm not mistaken, here we go. This is the map of Europe, and it talks about like where war. I think it's. Let's see. The bottom of this map is war. To the left is famine. Above at the top is conquest, and death is in the middle. So the world has been asundered. It is similar to what's the other game? Genesis. Yeah, it's been ripped asunder. And as you can tell with this map, it doesn't have a lot of detail on it, because it's not supposed to. But of course, in the middle of the map, the very center of the map, we have ourselves Italy, and the different islands have cropped up. You can see the Mediterranean is closed off now, so it's basically a giant lake, if you will, maybe probably one of the largest lakes in the world, or ocean. I guess it would be salt water. I don't know. I don't think physical representations matter in this apocalypse, but yeah. But anyway, that's a map of the region, and it goes to talk about Italy and Babylonia Protectorate, which is the last human city. Of course, there are other, refugees trying to find the last city, and it goes into different regions and such. And then let's go to the very end so we can get out of here. Adventures in the end times, and how do you run adventures in the end times for low level and it does talk about the 4 tiers of gaming and how do the players navigate in that world. And of course, the lowest tier, first level to like 5th level player characters, are like wanderers. They are trying to escape the battles that are happening above them. They are your minor characters, and then towards the end times, as your characters gain levels, you may become generals in the war. And like chessboards, racing against time, moving pieces, legendary entities. So, and it gives you examples of it. To be honest with you, if you kind of look at the layout of this game, it's not very wordy. It looks like it's wordy, but really it's just small print, but they have a very wide border to it. So it's not a very long read, to be honest with you. If you're someone who's like, man, do I have to memorize all this stuff? And it seems like it's a lot. It just looks like a very small font. I think they could have increased the font size if they moved further into the borders a bit. But a lot of it is, it's pretty simple. A couple of paragraphs and you're done. And it talks about like how do you import this into other games, or maybe the player characters are drawn into this, the end times, or using this as the last war in your classic Dungeons and Dragons and stuff. Talks about the different factions, the throne, the abyss, and Babylonia. There's only 3 factions really. You can make up your own, but those are the big 3. And then Eclipse of Light and Shadows, the dark side of the throne, which is the dark side of fighting for the side of heaven. And then the hidden side of the abyss, those that are like, do I really want to be on the side of like the satanic region? No. Now, yeah, Satanic Panic, this is very much it. Yeah. Inverted Babylonia, ranks of the hosts, and goes into some detail about how do you run a militia and the armies, and where do the player characters fit into all of that, and what choices do they make. Some of the interesting people that live in the important people that live in Babylonia, and the horsemen, what their mission is, and are they at war with each other and what their missions are, or could you be on one or more, ally yourself with one of the four horsemen that are in this war. And then here we got apocalyptic relics. These are like magic items. You guys know what all that stuff is. And lastly, the seals. This is kind of an adventure, as the seals are broken, and so you could run a game where maybe the players are trying to prevent the seals from being broken, or they know the seals are going to be broken as each one, and the players are living through each seal being broken. I like that idea, that the apocalypse keeps building, and it's like basically not seven level, maybe a different word, 7 cycles as each seal gets broken, and the players have to live through that. Mind you, as it does suggest that maybe you might even want to make legacy player characters, like you make a low level, mid level, and high level characters, and that your low level characters, basically they die off, but they play the beginning of the seals being broken, and your mid-level character is where the middle seals, so that this could take place over hundreds of years if you'd like to do it that way. And I think that'd be kind of cool too. So, and this is basically the adventure and all that kind of stuff at the very end. Let's see if there's a character sheet at the back, because I don't remember finding one. These are also Acheron Games are also the ones that made Bracalonia. Bracalonia, I believe, is the name of the game. 5th edition as well. And then Fight for Humanity, the 7 Seals. And that's it. So I'm going to very quickly go back to the cover of the book. Single page this. Let's get this nice and big, and then we're going to get out of here. Say hello to my huge friend. I have not seen Chaos. Wish I did. Yeah, Shadow says I could go, and this is kind of sums up this game and why I think it hasn't drawn that much attention. Ironically, because you say I could go totally controversial, but I don't really want to tick anyone off, and I feel like this setting is like that, right? Like I think there are people who would be interested in reading it. I don't know if anybody would want to run it or even do a live play of it, an actual play, let alone make a comment about it. Because on DriveThruRPG, which is the links that I put down below, there's no comments about it. I'm like, this is kind of brilliant. Even I haven't left my own comments, but I can see people not wanting to get flamed out. So yeah. Enough to stay allowed to bother us. Wow. I'm sorry, just going through your comments here. Yep, Shadow says, honestly, this is kind of neat. If nothing else, is inspirational fodder. And that's exactly why I backed it. You know, we all know Kickstarters take a long time to come about, especially the physical books, and I think the physical book is absolutely beautiful, and it is amazing. I agree with you. I think it is very inspirational fodder. My hesitation to even running something like this would be 45 minutes of arguing about biblical histories and things like that when we're really here to roll dice. But at the same time, I can understand why we would segue into 45 minutes of talking about biblical history, because the game, this setting is literally built off of that. So how can you avoid it, right? So you're kind of inviting those kinds of discussions and disagreements and dissertations, historical relevancies and whatnot. And yeah, so I'm with you there, Shadow. Yep. Yep. I haven't seen Chaos. KAOS when it airs here in the States on Netflix about the gods and whatnot. Yeah. I'm with you there, sis. Says gotta find a game like this except based on Islam so I can run a live stream and get do I become the next Salman Rushdie? Yeah, man. And you know what? Part of me, I know it's horrible to think of it, but I would love to see what a person who, you know, a tabletop role player who is, you know, of Islamic bent and decides to make a game that way in today's world. Yeah. Satanic versus role playing. Yeah, it sure would be. Yep, Chaos is a modern reimagining of Greek Olympus. Yeah, so anyway, like I said, this game is from Italy. The Italian makers. Now, does that mean that they automatically get a pass because they are the closest to the Vatican and that seat of Catholicism and such? Well, for me, yeah, they get a pass for me. So I really appreciate it. So guys, thank you very much for letting me just show this off. If any of you want me to delve a little deeper into a chapter so we can kind of read through some of it, I'd be glad to do that. Stat blocks are they're more dense than some of the information itself. But like I said, there are 3 books. There's John's Guide to the Armageddon. There's the Monsters of the Apocalypse. And then there's the Book of Revelation. And all of this is under the umbrella of APOCALISSE, is how it's spelled. APOCALISSE. And you can look it up by Acheron Games, who also made Bracalonia. See, I see. Yep, see, there you go. We can get into a whole lot of trouble. Satanic Panic? Yeah. Ooh. Dude, I bet something like that exists. We're just not going to be able to find it without knowing Arabic or Farsi. I agree with you. I'm actually impressed. I'm very happy that they made this game in Italian, Latin, and English. I'm very impressed by that. I'm happy they did it because I'm very interested. And like I said, I like to give a clap to people who around the world. What do they think? How do they look at role playing? And even for a historical element, I'm glad I was able to find this and back it and acquire it. So it's kind of cool. It's really cool to be able to meet other people that are part of a global tabletop role playing community, and how they look at things. And I'm sure there are other Christian foddered role-playing games. I'm surprised this is one of the bigger ones that exists. I'm surprised no one else has done it. But Latin, like real Latin? Yeah, let me show you. And then I'm going to get out of here. Let's see. So let's go here. This is a separate book of art. This is the Book of Revelation, and the tabletop role-playing game Book of Revelation. And the very first page, we have ourselves, the first column is Latin, the second column is Italian, and the third column is English, and they are side by side. So if you can read both, you can read both. And if I'm not mistaken, it is a literal reprint of the Latin, Italian, and English of the Book of Revelation with the artwork. So technically it's classified as an art book, but yep. And this is it. So, like here, all the way to the right, to the angel of the assembly in Ephesus write, he who holds the 7 stars in his right hand, he who walks among the 7 golden lamp says these things. I know your works and your toil and perseverance, and that you can't tolerate evil men, and have tested those who call themselves apostles, and they are not, and found them false. You have perseverance and have endured for my name's sake, and I have not grown weary. Goes on and on and on. Yeah. I did read it verbatim, so and it has all of the notations. Chapter 2, 1, so on and so forth. So yeah, very, very interesting. I do. All the links are down below. Absolutely. Yep. Modern Latin has got to be interest. Seems like you'd have to be making up new words left and right just to write about any modern day shit at all. I was wondering about that, but like I said, is there spoken Latin? Where did it come from? I don't know, but I'm pretty sure they have greater access to a translation system. So I don't know. See, that's what I did. I added to my collection too. I think it's cool. There's something. I don't want to say blasphemous. What's a great descriptor for it? There's something. There's something rock and roll about this. It's great. And yes, the links to the description. Let me throw one in the chat here for some people who don't. Actually, let me look for this. APOCALISSE, John's Guide to the Armageddon. So this is at drive-through, and this is just a PDF, and then I'm going to find Acheron Games, and I will take you there and paste, and that's the link to Acheron Games. Matter of fact, you know what? I'll go to their website and replace this. Sorry about all the clickety clack. There we go. Made in Italy. There we go. This is their website. Talks about their games. John's Guide to the Armageddon. When he opened the fourth seal, I heard the fourth living creature saying, "Come and see." Crazy. Awesome. Look at that poor zero level Hume. Oof. There it is. So guys, thank you very much for being part of the show. I really appreciate it. Thank you very much for letting me share this out to you guys. Like I said, and I agree with Shadow. This is imaginative fodder. I love it. There's something cool about, like, to me, about both embracing the idea of like playing a game where you are the smallest of specks in this great battle that's happening, and then yet you are also a mover and shaker in this great war and such. So yeah, maybe we could go on and talk about this later on. Oh no, who put start reading a cookbook recipe out loud and actually summon the spirit. Yeah, I don't know what that means. Yeah. But anyway, guys, thank you very much. Guys, have a great one. Maybe we'll go over, like, maybe we'll continue down this path if that doesn't bother you guys, and maybe talk about some like player character options, because I really didn't go too deeply. Like I said, these are 3 books, but it's pretty interesting. And like I said, I'm not a really big Dungeons and Dragons promoter at this time, or rather, I'm not a big WotC promoter, but this is really, yeah. You guys are bad. Anyway, guys, have a great one. I'll see you later. Peace and tranquility. Bye.